I was never one of those kids who saw ghosts in the dark or clung to their mother's clothes out of fear of something they couldn't explain. I was just a normal child, or at least that's what everyone thought, until she appeared. Even thinking about her now makes my fingers tremble over the page. I don't know where she came from or why she chose me of all people. All I know is that I saw her for the first time when I was 6 years old, and from that day on, she never left. It was an unusually cold winter. Rain hammered the windows non-stop, and the wind howled through the cracks as if trying to rip the house from the ground. I was lying in bed, listening to the storm, when I suddenly felt the room lose all its warmth. The air grew heavy, suffocating, as if someone was watching me from a dark corner. I opened my eyes slowly and looked toward the far end of the room. There, where the wardrobe met the wall, she stood. A tall woman, unnaturally thin, slightly bent, as if her spine had been broken in several places. Her wet black hair hung over her face, hiding most of her features, but I could see her smile. God, that smile! It wasn't human. It stretched far too wide, as if the skin had been pulled back to reveal a long row of cracked yellow teeth. I didn't scream. I didn't move. All I did was pull the blanket over my head until morning came. When I told my mother what I had seen, she said it was just nightmares, just a child's imagination. But I knew it wasn't imagination because she came back the next night. And from that night on, she visited me every few days. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She just stood there, staring at me with that wide grin, as if waiting for something. Something I wouldn't understand until many years later, when it was too late. Years passed, and I moved through life like any normal person. But the woman, she didn't age. She didn't change. The same wet hair, the same crooked posture, the same torn smile. She appeared in different places, by my bedroom door, in the bathroom, behind the mirror. No one else could see her, and I didn't know whether I was losing my mind or if something else existed in my world that others couldn't perceive. I tried to live with her. I tried to ignore her, but every time she appeared, she stood closer, step by step, painfully slow, as if she enjoyed watching my fear grow with every inch she gained. I didn't know when she would finally reach me or what she wanted to do, until the day everything changed. I was 25, living alone in a small apartment in the city. I used to come home late from work, exhausted and drained, too tired to be afraid of anything. But that night, I knew something was wrong the second I walked in. The silence was absolute, deeper than ever before. The air was cold, as if every window was wide open, though they were tightly shut. And a strange smell hung in the room, wet, foul, like earth soaked after something rotten had been buried in it. I tossed my keys on the table and began taking off my shoes when something stopped my heart for a moment. Wet footprints, trailing from the apartment door all the way to my bedroom. They weren't mine. The prints were narrow, long, as if made by a woman with unnaturally extended toes. And God help me, they left behind drops of black water. I froze, unable to think. I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears like some primitive drum, signaling its own end. Suddenly, the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the room whole. Then I heard it. A whisper. Soft, delicate. A sound I knew too well. She was breathing behind the door,
slowly, deeply, as if savoring my scent. I had no choice but to step back. Then another step, but the floor was slippery with the water she left behind, and I fell. My hands and clothes soaked instantly. The water was icy, like it had just seeped out from under the earth. The door creaked open. She was coming. I lay frozen, watching the door slowly push inward as if an unseen force was nudging it open. And when it finally stood wide open, I saw her. This time she wasn't hiding in the dark. This time she was close. Far, too close. Her dripping hair clung to her face, trailing black water. The white dress she always wore was torn and stuck to her frail body. Her neck was bent at an impossible angle. And her eyes were not eyes at all, just hollow, dark pockets leaking a faint, invisible mist. She smiled, and this time I saw her teeth clearly. Long, thin, needle-like. She stepped forward. Then again. With each step, her breathing shifted from deep to whimpering to a sound no human could make. She raised her hand. Her arm was impossibly long, fingers twisted like dead branches. When her fingertips brushed my cheek, a coldness pierced straight into my bones. But she didn't attack me. She placed her hand on my face and stroked my cheek, as if comforting me. Then, for the first time, I heard her speak.
A whisper, in the voice of a child.
Finally, you've grown up.
The words stuck in my throat. I didn't understand what she meant. I didn't understand why her voice sounded so childlike, nothing like her terrifying body. Before I could speak, she leaned close to my ear and whispered something that made the world collapse before my eyes.
Do you remember me?
I shoved her away with all my strength and dashed for the door. But the floor was covered in that black water, and I slipped again. She was closer now. She reached out, tilting her broken head as if examining my face. She smiled strangely, the smile of someone who knew the truth, while I was the only one who didn't.
You're the one who left me there,
she said softly. I didn't understand. I swear I didn't understand anything. But she continued.
You were so small, and I was crying, begging, and you ran. You left me.
She crawled closer.
You're the reason. You're the one who made me stay.
Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. I didn't know what she was talking about. I remembered nothing. She cupped my face with both her hands, so cold they felt like pain, and said in a trembling voice, not angry, but hurt,
I was your sister.
My breath stopped. My heart dropped into my stomach.
I never had a sister. That's what I was told. That's how I was raised. I crawled backward, away from her, while she continued closing the distance, her body scraping the floor, her bones cracking with every movement. They made you forget. They buried me, and I waited for you, in the dark, in the water, in the place you left me. In that moment, images flooded my mind, memories I thought were nightmares or childish hallucinations. A little girl crying, a hand pulling me away, screaming, black water, a shallow grave. and me running away while her voice drowned in the darkness. I collapsed, choking on my sobs. She approached until her face was inches from mine. She wasn't smiling anymore. She was crying. "I just wanted you to come back. I was alone. No one grows up there, except me." She placed her hand over my chest. The cold seeped into my ribs, my bones, my soul, everything inside me. Then she whispered, "Come with me." I don't remember anything after that. I woke up in the hospital, drenched from head to toe, the smell of old well water soaked into my clothes. They said they found me in the street, screaming and writhing as if something was dragging me inward. They said I was crying and repeating one word, "Forgive me." They didn't believe me when I said she came back. They didn't believe me when I said I wasn't an only child. But tonight, I heard a sound at my hospital room door. Heavy breathing, a spreading puddle of black water, and a whisper, the same whisper from long ago. "I'm here, brother."
As the black stain beneath the door widened, I felt my heart was about to explode from fear. But this time, there was no sound of cracking bones, no angry whispers, no hand reaching out to drag me away. Something entirely different appeared. When the door opened, I saw her. But she wasn't the terrifying creature I had known. There was no torn smile, no broken neck, no dripping hair hanging like a serpent. She was calm. Her features soft, the face of a child, my little sister, as I had never seen her before. And her eyes? They glowed with a warmth unlike the darkness of all those years. She stepped forward. The black water I was used to seeing transformed beneath her feet into a faint glow like the reflection of the moon over a still lake. She stood beside me and sat at the edge of the bed. She reached out her hand, and it wasn't cold. It was warm, warm enough to break a soul. She spoke in a voice that could only belong to the sister I never got to know. "I didn't come to hurt you. I came to check on you." Tears flooded down my face. I couldn't speak. She continued, wiping my tears with fingers that seemed to dissolve into light. "I stayed watching over you all these years, until I knew you were okay. My place was darkness, but I climbed out of it for you, so you wouldn't be alone." She took a deep breath, and for the first time, her small smile appeared without any fear. "Now, it's time for me to go." I panicked, grabbing her hand tightly, terrified of losing her again. "No, wait, I'm not—" She cut me off with a sad, gentle smile. "You're free, brother. It's over. You won't see me again. The darkness I was trapped in is gone, and you don't need anyone to protect you anymore." Her body began to dissolve like white smoke. No water, no shadows, only light, soft, quiet light, like the peace that comes after long tears. And before she vanished completely, I heard her whisper one last time, "I was only making sure you were safe, but now it's my time to rest." Then everything disappeared. The door, the floor, the room became ordinary, dry, with no trace of water or darkness. For the first time in 20 years, I felt strangely light, empty, but not afraid, peaceful, unfamiliar, but real. And that night I slept without her standing in the corner, without waiting for the darkness to take its old, terrifying shape. I knew she was gone, but she left me, after guarding me one final time. She left me, free.
If you have reached the end, thank you. Subscribe to the channel if you like creepy stories,